All right, boys and girls, we are dividing decimals. It is the same but different. We know it's the same because we're still going to have multiplication man and we're going to digit box. We're going to digit box now, but instead of just digit box, it's going to be digit box, decimal, decimal, digit box, wherever that decimal falls. Some of the differences, there is no longer a remainder box. You can never have a decimal point and a remainder at the same time. Instead, if you have a remainder, annex or add a 0 and keep on going. So let's do an example of what we've been doing, and then we're going to step it up a notch. So dividing decimals, it's the same but different. So we are going to review this example, 87 3/10 divided by 5. Please remember that when you are writing the problem, it's a bit of a crisscross. We're going to set it up, and the 87 3/10 goes inside the house, and make sure that you're spacing it out well. And then the 5 goes on the outside. So some of the things that are the same, multiplication man, and then we have digit box, box above the 8, digit box, box above the 7, but now we have decimal, decimal right up above, and digit box. And now we're going to solve as usual. So 5 times 1 gets me closest to 8, it gets me to 5, and I'm 3 away. Throw that 3 up to my 7, get my new target of 37. I know 5 times 7 gets me closest, that's 35. And I am 2 away, because 2 plus 35 is 37. Don't forget to throw that 2 up next to the 3, and now I need to get closest to that 23. I know 4 times 5 is 20, because 5 times 5 is 25. That's too much, and I'm 3 away. Normally, with whole numbers, that would become my remainder, but I'm not allowed to have a remainder and a decimal point, so I'm going to annex a 0, and that becomes a new digit, and that means we need a new box, and it gives me a place to throw that 3 up to. And once we annex that 0, we're now going to figure out 5 times what gets me closest to 30. That would be 6, which hits 30 exactly, and we are 0 away, and the problem is done. So we get an answer of 17 46/100. That's what we've been working on. But there's a new rule, something we haven't talked about yet, and it's AAAWA. AAAWA. This stands for always, always, always. Whole number, always. What does this really mean? You can only divide by a whole number. You cannot divide by a decimal. Well, what if you aren't dividing by a whole number? Just remember this simple rhyme. If there's a decimal on the side, slide, slide. Let me show you what I mean by that. Here we have a problem, 4 32/100 divided by 4/10. Again, I have to remember to crisscross when I set it up. So I'm going to set it up here. I have 4 32/100, and I'm dividing this by 4/10. That 4/10 comes to the other side. And that rule said, always, 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 whole number, always. You can only divide by a whole number. Well, here, we're not dividing by a whole number. Here we're dividing by a decimal. It is not allowed. It is forbidden. So there is a rhyme. If there's a decimal on the side, slide, slide. Well, here we have a decimal on the side, so we're going to slide that decimal point all the way to the right as far as it needs to go. Well, in this case, in order to move this decimal point all the way to the right, we're going to jump it one jump over the 4, and it's going to land here. So this now just becomes the whole number 4. But it doesn't say if there's a decimal on the side, slide. It says if there's a decimal on the side, slide and slide. However many jumps I do with this number on the side, I have to do the same number of jumps inside the decimal house. So we jumped one space to the right. I'm going to jump over one digit again, that same digit, and move that decimal point. Once I've done that and I've slide, now I'm going to add multiplication man and digit box. So I have digit box. I don't have a decimal point here anymore. Digit box. Now I have a decimal point here, so I'm going to throw that right up above, and digit box. And now we solve the problem as usual. I'm going to change colors of my pen here just to make it easier to see. Now I'm going to solve as usual. This is no longer 4/10. It's now just the whole number 4. So I can kind of think about this as the whole number 4. So I want to start here. 4 times 1 gets me closest to 4. It gets me to 4, and I'm 0 away. Throw that 0 up next to my 3. Get rid of that there. 4 times what gets me closest to 3? Well, that would be 0. That lands at 0, and I'm 3 away. Throw that 3 up next to my 2. I am now at 32 for my target. 4 times 8 gets me closest to 32. It hits 32, and I land at 0. No need to annex for this one. I have a final answer of 10 and 8/10. Let me show you another one. This rule, always, 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 whole number, always, really only has to do with the setup. So again, we're going to crisscross to do our setup. So I'm going to set this up here. I have 54 and 3/10 inside the house. And then this 0 and 2/10 comes here. I know, always, 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 whole number, always. This number must always be a whole number. It's not. So what I'm going to do is, if there's a decimal on the side, slide, slide. I'm going to slide the decimal all the way to the right. Well, we need to jump over 1 digit to get that decimal over here. So I'm going to jump it 1 space to the right. And it's not slide, it's slide, slide. So now I need to jump this decimal point 1 space to the right as well. So he's going to jump over the 3, and he's got a new spot. Now I do multiplication man, digit box, digit box. No decimal here. Digit box, decimal, decimal. So here is the decimal now. Now we're going to go ahead and solve it just like we normally would. This is no longer 2/10. We slid the decimal over to make it a whole number. It's now the whole number 2. So 2 times 2 gets me to 4, and I'm 1 away. Throw that 1 up here. 2 times 7 gets me closest to 14. It hits 14, 0 away. Throw that 0 here. I know 2 times 1 gets me closest. It gets me to 2, and I'm 1 away. I can't stop there, so I'm going to annex a 0 and throw a box up here so I have a place to keep going. And let's see, 2 times 5 gets me exactly at 10, and I'm 0 away, and I'm done. So I end up with an answer of 271.5, 271 and 5/10. So always, 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 whole number, always. If it's not, if there's a decimal on the side, slide, slide. I'm just going to show you how to set up the next few. I'm not going to solve them. So I know this number is going to go over here. So this is going to be 65 and 23/100. That decimal point there. And this number is going to go this way. It's going to be 0 and 8/100. Well, always, 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 whole number, always. If there's a decimal on the side, slide, slide. In order to get this decimal point all the way to the right to make it the whole number 8, I'm going to have to jump over the 0 and jump over the 8, which means I'm going to slide it 2 jumps. Okay, so I'm also going to slide it 2 jumps in this number. 1 over the 2 and 2 over the 3. So he's no longer where he started. So we jumped it 2 jumps to the right to make this the whole number 8, and then we slid this one to the right again. Now we can add multiplication man, digit box, digit box. There is no decimal here anymore. It's digit box, and the decimal point would go here. So if I get my red pen back up, this went from 8/100. It's not 8/100 anymore. It's just the whole number 8. As I'm going through and doing my multiplication, I already know where my decimal point is going to be in my answer. Let's do a couple more for setup purposes only. So I'm going to crisscross to do my setup here. Crisscross will make you jump, jump. Daddy Mac will make you. All right. So 0 and 4/10 goes over here. If there's a decimal to the side, slide, slide. So I need to get this decimal all the way to the right. So that's just going to be 1 jump, and he's no longer here. He's now here. decimal to the side, slide, slide. I'm going to jump this guy 1 jump to the right also. And that's going to be his landing zone. So now, multiplication man, digit box right above the 1. No decimal point here anymore. Digit box right above the 8. Decimal, decimal right up here. Digit box. Now, this 4/10 is no longer 4/10. It's the whole number 4. And we have our work to be done. So again, our new rule, always, 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 whole number always. You can only divide by a whole number always. Okay? If there's a decimal on the side, slide, slide. Let's get some practice.